The Monster Guys podcast begins now.
Welcome to another edition of the Monster Guys podcast. As always, I'm DC McGannon, and I'm here with C. Michael McGannon.
Hello, everyone.
We are in the season of joy, Michael. We are smack in the middle of it all.
The Yuletide.
Yes, and, you know, it doesn't seem like it, because it doesn't seem like there are a whole lot of people that are full of joy.
Not right now, no.
It's a shame, to be honest with you, how many of our cultures around the world have degraded this season to one of shopping or whatever they do, and, you know, people fighting over the dinner table or whatever it is. I mean, but I'd rather enjoy this as a season of light, of love, of joy, and enjoy one another's company, and, you know, what shopping we do, it should be from a heart of giving.
Definitely. You know, just the busyness of the season kind of takes away from it all. And I don't know, I hope to relax and enjoy the next few weeks.
Yeah, so we just want to say to you, listener, enjoy the season. Relax, have a little fun, drink a little drink, eat a little food, spend time with family and friends, and don't let this craziness get to you and ruin the season for you. And then I think that way also it allows the season to continue on throughout the year.
Definitely.
Tonight, we've got some wonderful little creatures to talk about.
Yeah, I think the first few of which we've actually talked about, well, I think we've talked about all of these before, but on the podcasts, we referenced the first two not too very long ago, maybe 2 episodes ago?
Yeah, I think so. We referenced the Tomte and the Nisse in the Trolls episode.
Yes.
Which is, we're going to start there, but we're also going to get into the stories of the Yule Cat, Gryla, the Yule Lads, and some other traditions and stories surrounding those creatures.
You know, this region, the whole Scandinavian region has a lot of very weird holiday traditions, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, some of them are actually hilarious. Some of them are terrifying.
And some are just outright bizarre.
And some are just weird tales that you just hard to wrap your mind around. But they're a lot of fun. And 'tis the season, so we're going to jump into them. First of all, let's go back a couple of episodes to when we mentioned the Tomte and the Nisse. You wanted to bring a couple of points up about those two characters before we jump too far into this.
Yeah.
These house spirits have an interesting story around the Yuletide.
Yeah. If you, listener, had listened to our episode on trolls, you know that they are house spirits. They are descendants of trolls, if you will, or possibly just trolls that have gotten really old. They're house spirits. They protect the barn. They protect the kitchen. They protect the people of the house and the farm.
They're kind of similar to boggarts in my mind.
Boggarts and, the domovoi from Russia. These guys, though, are still trollish, and they do still have the capacity for aggressive behavior, pranks that they like to play on people.
However, their primary function, really, is to be caretakers and gift givers.
Yes. Well, in this season, yes. The Tomte and the Nisse, he does not require much, but he does want respect. So if you treat him
as all good creatures do,
definitely. But if you mistreat him, you'll find out about it. This is particularly true in the holiday season. One of the things that they ask for is a bowl of Yule grot, which is Christmas porridge.
Have you ever had Yule grot?
I haven't, and it doesn't. The name doesn't sound very appeasing.
I wonder if it's like oatmeal.
I hope so.
Or what's that other thing, like cream of wheat or something? Grits. Ooh, grits?
Yeah.
Like from the south?
Yeah,
Is that what Yule grot is, do you think?
I don't I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too. I don't know. We need to maybe find a recipe and make some Yule grot.
I was thinking we should do that for the Monster Guys cooking show coming up.
That's right. Cooking with the Monster Guys coming to you soon. Let's not give too much away.
All right. But yeah, they did kind of, they didn't demand it, but it's something that they expected to have on Christmas Eve. A bowl of Yule grot with a chunk of butter on top.
And there's actually a story,
Yes.
traditionally, that speaks to this demand that they have for Yule grot.
Yeah, and it also speaks to their capacity for aggression. So there was a little girl one day who decided to play a prank back onto their family Tomte.
Silly little girl.
You shouldn't mess with these guys.
Do
even
not
if you're trying to
mess
be
with
playful.
your house spirits.
So she set out the bowl of porridge, but she put the butter on bottom.
Oh,
It's a big no-no. You'll find out why in just a second.
messed up.
So the Tomte comes along, finds this bowl of Yule grot, and sees that there's no butter on top, and he goes into a rage. He actually goes into He goes into the barn and kills their best cow.
Listen, if somebody put the butter in the wrong place on my oatmeal, I think I'd be upset too.
But would you kill the best cow?
Well, I don't know that I'd kill the best cow.
Would you have a cow?
Here it goes with the puns again. I would not have a cow, but I would be upset if somebody messed up my oatmeal.
Well,
See, for me,
this story-
oatmeal is an art. And
Well,
I'm
I know
likening Yule grot to oatmeal right now.
I can confirm this for the listeners.
The creation of the meal of oatmeal is a fine art, and it takes great care, sufficient time, ingredients. You don't just plop it in a bowl and listen.
And
You don't put the butter in the wrong place.
I actually like my butter on the bottom. It melts better that way.
Yeah, but I can understand if a house spirit prefers his butter on top.
They are particular creatures.
He would get upset if it was on the bottom. So, silly little girl for doing this. So anyway, he kills the best cow.
He kills the best cow, and then he comes back to eat the porridge afterwards. Because, it's still there. So
Well,
might
he's
as well-
hungry.
Yeah, you
Killing
might as
a
well eat
cow
it.
takes a lot of energy.
It's Christmas Eve. You might as well enjoy something, right?
Right.
Well, he gets to the bottom and finds that the chunk of butter was on the bottom this entire time. So
Oh,
he
dear.
feels horrible, and he actually goes and steals the neighbor's best cow to replace the cow whose families he killed.
Uh-oh. You see the dual nature of this spirit. When it is cared for versus when it is angered, and when silly little girls put the butter in the wrong place.
And you see their capacity for aggression, like I said. You also kind of see that they can feel remorse. They're monsters, but they still have feelings too, and they can still ask for forgiveness in their own way.
Well, of course. And one day we're going to get into the topic of what real monsters are all about. But that's
One day.
for another day and another book that I'll be writing this year. So anyway, the Tomte and the Nisse have a grand story during the season of Yule.
They do.
And I think the moral of the story is take care of your house spirits.
Definitely, and to this day, I this is me just speculating, but I think because of the Santa Claus myth, they've taken a more central role in Christmas nowadays, where they actually are the gift bringers for people in that region.
Okay, so they're almost like a Santa Claus.
Yeah, they don't come down to the chimney; they come straight through the front door, but they still do drop off the
But
presents.
they bring gifts and bring a lot of joy during this season. All right, well, let's move on. But before we do, Michael, we have something very special today.
Something new.
Something new. Somebody has written us a letter.
Oh,
And so we're going to cut right now to a new segment in our wonderful, grand, growing podcast. And we're going to open up the Monster Mailbag.
ooh.
Yes, delicious mail. I love it. Yes. Let's open the monster mailbag. Let's see what's inside.
Okay, so I have in my hand this letter that was handed to me. It's in a little envelope. You can see this.
It's pretty cute.
The cute little envelope. And we're going to open this up right now because we have a question from a listener, and we need to answer our mail.
All right.
And I'm very excited because we have mail. People are listening, and they're giving us mail.
Are you going to start singing the mail call from Blue Flute?
In an envelope. Well, what I'm so excited about is that this is not just an email, although we would love to hear from you by email or by comment sections, whether it's on iTunes or YouTube or on our website. We'll answer your questions on our podcast during Monster Mailbag.
So send them in, guys.
Send them in. But here's our first one. Let me open this up. I'm so excited about this. Okay, here's the question. What are the differences and or... You following me?
So far.
Okay. What are the differences and or similarities between werewolves and skinwalkers? With regards, Michael, signed OG. Michael, I think we just got a letter from the original Gangster.
Are you sure that's not what I thought of first, actually?
What did you think?
Opera Ghost.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. Opera Ghost would make more sense.
Maybe, I don't know, but...
I'm not sure that the original Gangster would send us... The monster guys. I don't know. He could, though. We could come in handy. But, okay, so with regards, OG. And we're going to say it's from the Opera Ghost.
I'm going to start singing now.
That would make... Oh, you're going to start singing the Phantom of the Opera.
Let's not do that.
Okay, so what are the differences and or similarities between werewolves and skinwalkers? This is actually an interesting question.
It's actually a really good question because I think pop culture skews the image of skinwalkers. It really makes them look like just the Native American version of werewolves, and that's not the case. That's
not accurate, and it could be probably the farthest thing from accurate the deeper you dig into it.
Well, I think there are definitely some similarities, but...
Well, I'm going to say this, because I think this is the important thing that people need to know, and however unfortunate it may be, werewolves have more movies.
More movies and better ones.
And they have better movies.
If I can go so far as to say that.
Than skinwalkers. And that is an unfortunate fact in our world today, and hopefully some creative, brilliant geniuses out there who are working in film and or television will one day pick up the story of skinwalkers and bring it to life better than it has been done in the past.
I think some people have tried. I think the Supernatural series has tried a couple times, but let's get into that. Skinwalker. Well, let's go with werewolves first because we did werewolves not too long ago on our podcast.
Right.
Werewolves are a form of shapeshifter, typically created either by sorcery or by tragedy or birthed into this world as a disfigured person or somebody born under unnatural circumstances. Werewolves, as we went over not too long ago, I mean, that's it. They basically just turn into werewolves, into humanoid wolves or into flat-out wolves to protect people or, in some other countries, ravage towns and be messengers of the devil and such. You know, those fun stories that we went over not too long ago.
Okay, well, that's pretty common knowledge, and I think people have a pretty good grasp on what werewolves are, but what, if any, similarities exist between werewolves and skinwalkers?
Well, we need to define skinwalkers. Now,
okay.
Skinwalkers do not just turn into wolves, and unfortunately, the media has portrayed them as doing just that.
Right.
Skinwalkers are very magical beings, typically are witches or sorcerers in their own right, and they...
Considered a large part in, I mean, tradition and historical documentation as being witches.
Yes, but specifically somebody who's broken a sort of taboo to practice a darker kind of magic. And these skinwalkers will wear the pelts of bears or the pelts of wolves or coyotes or mountain lions.
If I'm not mistaken, they were actually required to for their magic.
In older stories, yes. And that may be something, again, with pop culture because, you know, it's inconvenient to have to change that out, but as time progressed, they didn't have to anymore.
Okay.
But they could do a whole lot of other things as well. They practiced astral projection into other people, kind of possessing bodies of other people. They could steal the face of other people, steal the identity, and they were often known for being able to copy the voice of a beloved family member or a friend for the purpose of trickery.
Okay, so...
Very creepy legends.
So a lot of high magic, dark dark practices, deception, a lot of things that go well beyond the scope of traditional werewolf.
Yeah, I think your werewolves are more intelligent than media portrays them to be, but they're still that savage, bestial monster, whereas skinwalkers are very savage in their attacks and everything. They're even more recent stories talk about how they destroy vehicles to this day.
Yeah, modern stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they are very cunning, very intelligent people still. They're not just beasts, but these are actually like people practicing their craft on purpose with purpose to deadly ends.
So I think there we have it in a nutshell. We have, I think, a modern pop culture media comparison based on the character of the wolf.
Yeah.
Or the werewolf,
'Cause let's be
between
honest,
the two.
what do most people think when they think of shapeshifters?
Right.
That's the most common one.
Right. And so we have this prominent idea that they're pretty much the same thing, just in different parts of the world. And that is not accurate.
Not at all.
And this topic of skinwalkers, I think we're going to revisit it again soon this coming year, because it's of interest to us, and everywhere we go to speak, I think probably without exception, everywhere we've gone to speak on monsters or perform at conventions or whatever, we have been approached on the topic of Native American legends, skinwalkers, and various other, but these are specific questions that come to us regularly.
They are, and we haven't really gotten into them in any of our podcasts or the articles that we've written, so I think it's time.
Yeah, so look forward to that, ladies and gentlemen, in the coming months. The Monster Guys are going to tackle skinwalkers, not literally, because they probably beat us up pretty good.
The Wampus Kitty?
Oh, don't. All right, let's. Yes, the Wampus Kit. We're going to tackle some of these Native American legends and these North American legends in the coming months. Look forward to that. But as far as this awesome, wonderful question that we have from OG, the differences and or similarities between werewolves and skinwalkers, there you go. I hope that gives you a pretty good answer in brief, and we'll expand on that in future discussions. Okay, Michael, that was very cool that we got some mail.
It's exciting.
And that our first one officially that we're considering for our podcast came by way of a cute little envelope that we got to open in person. I'm very excited about that.
I know.
I think when we get one in email, I may open and close my computer just to pretend it's an envelope being opened.
Well, don't we need your computer for recording, though?
Oh, never mind. Okay, so let's move on. We talked about the Tomte and the Nisse, and we're going to talk now about the Yule Cat.
I'm not even going to try to say its original name, but...
Yeah, the Yule Cat...
Very long.
It's long, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this, but I think it is the Yolakoturin?
I'm going to believe you on that.
Yolakoturin? Somebody may correct me on that if they have the proper pronunciation of that, but it's a giant cat.
Yes.
And not a very nice one for the most part.
In Iceland, they still have, to this day, phrases that they use when they say they're in trouble. Like, if you're in trouble, you're in the Yule Cat, or you're dressing the Yule Cat. Part of the reason is because the Yule Cat is known for eating children who don't get presents on Christmas morning.
The Yule Cat is not really, in the bigger scheme of things, is not a very old story.
No, this is something that's only been around for a few hundred years, maybe. Some people believe that it has roots in older stories, and I would like to point out that there are giant cat monsters all over the world, so it's probably, yes, a universal archetype that it spawns from.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned a couple of those in an article that we wrote on the monsterguys.com, the Bakeneko from Japan. Of course, we've talked about the Wampus Cat.
The Wampus Cat, and then, of course, the giant cats that King Arthur and his men had to slay.
Right. So we have pictures of these giant cats all over the world in various times of history. This particular cat, the Yule Cat, is actually the pet of Gryla, who we'll talk about more in just a moment, but Gryla goes all the way back to the Prose Eddas, the Scandinavian creation mythology, and stories stemming from that.
She's referenced in the Prose Edda and then several other documents, but unfortunately a lot of her main source material, if you will, is lost to us. But we'll talk about that. The Yule Cat, like I was saying, is known for eating kids who don't get presents on Christmas Day, and that's kind of that's
pretty scary.
That is scary. There's more to that story, but that's what
I was going to say, it's not just kids who don't get presents, but the reason they don't get presents is because they didn't make their presents.
Well, the presents specifically that we're talking about here are articles of clothing.
Kids were supposed to make their own clothes.
To this day, people will wear new clothing on Christmas morning to avoid getting eaten by the Yule Cat. And
I do. I don't want to get eaten by the Yule Cat.
Some scholars say that it's because that they had to
Could you imagine seeing a big giant cat walking through your backyard on Christmas Day and
I can't imagine it.
Teeth baring.
I don't really want to.
That's disturbing.
I'll hide in the bathroom.
So these kids
They can't fit
were
the
supposed to make their own clothes. The ones that did not...
Well, yes. Here's the thing. Back then, if you helped your mom and dad or whoever was guarding you in that day and age gather the wool, they would make you clothing for Christmas that year. But there are some scholars...
A simpler time.
A simpler time, yes.
A time I think many of us would like to see some simpler times come back, especially given the attitudes that are floating around this time of year, but let's go on.
At the same time, I don't necessarily want to be in fear of the Yule Cat.
Right, true.
But yeah, some people actually say that it was because the kids who didn't help didn't get new clothing. There are some who say that the Yule Cat was less merciful, that if you just didn't get any clothing for any reason whatsoever, it would still eat you. But to this day, people wear that clothing and use that phrase to dress the Yule Cat. There are some old stories that talk about how it would also eat you if you didn't give it an offering, and this was oftentimes old clothing that it could have and wear, or even just old presents. As time has gone on, we've kind of made our stories more family-friendly, and nowadays the Yule Cat is said to just eat your presents if you don't feed him stuff.
So they just eat your presents instead of eating you.
Right, nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's still a scary idea to have this giant cat roaming around you.
Yeah, and I think the whole idea of that story goes back to we should be nice, and...
it's the boogeyman. Obey your parents, be nice, be kind, and do your chores, and if you do, you won't get eaten. Which actually ties into Gryla, I would say the Yule Cat's owner.
So here we have basically another cautionary tale that has grown from other legends. Legends such as the pet owner, in this case, Gryla.
Yes, Gryla is a troll, a giantess who lives up in the mountains.
And we're going back to trolls again.
Yeah.
We just had trolls a couple of episodes ago, but trolls are so prominent during this time of the year in many cultures.
In Iceland specifically, Gryla will come down and kidnap naughty kids for her dinner. And this is because she has a husband who is kind of a deadbeat, kind of a couch potato, if you will, who just kind of sits around in their cave all day. But
he was the third husband of Gryla.
Yes. Okay, so here's what you have to understand about Gryla. Gryla these days, again, is kind of watered down. She's like the Yule Cat, where she's not as scary as she used to be. In fact, some people believe that she's dead, and that she could come back if there are enough naughty children, but to ease the fear, I think that she had once caused, people have said that for now she's dead. But Gryla, her first husband, she ate. Her second husband, I guess she just divorced. But her third husband, I don't know what will happen if he keeps on being a deadbeat. She's still with him, but she's kind of this intimidating figure to him, and she has to go get the food and everything.
So the first husband she consumed.
Yes.
She ate him.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a woman to be messed with.
No, this is a troll. This is
a troll, a giantess that has eaten her first husband.
And kind of a special one. She has 15 tails and cloven hooves.
15, and by the way, she goes all the way back. Her references go all the way back to that original Scandinavian creation. I think I said that. Going back to the prose Edda. It's kind of lost in translation a little bit, but we've seen her for a long time on the scene.
She's referenced in that story as somebody who's very intimidating and terrifying. Even back then, she was a very powerful figure, but it was just a reference. To us, we don't know what she meant to those people back in that day and age.
Yeah, but what we understand with the Eddas is that a lot of that kind of bolstered the oral history, the oral tradition, and so a lot of people reading that text would understand what was being inferred when it spoke about Gryla and about other monsters and giants and gods and everything.
But unfortunately, they didn't record the rest of their oral history,
right.
So there's a lot that is lost.
So we don't have the whole story as far as that is concerned, but what we do have is Gryla coming forward, and she is still not somebody to be reckoned with.
Definitely not.
So her first husband, she ate. Her second husband, she divorced. Do we know why she ate him? The first one?
No.
Do we know why she divorced the second one?
No, I don't know that one either. It's just kind of a strange piece.
I think it goes back to the idea that you don't mess with this woman. So probably somewhere along the line, these guys...
Her third husband, that's the deadbeat, doesn't get anything. Other than
yeah,
just
well, not yet.
Head. Not
and I don't
yet.
know that
That's
we're done
true.
with it. And if she's dead, I think there are enough naughty children in the world. She'll show up again soon, but if not, who knows? But this giantess, 15 tails.
And cloven hooves, she comes down
Cloven
to
hooves.
the town.
Kind of sounding like another creature that's...
You know, during our research for this episode, somebody had mentioned that she sometimes takes the form of a fox.
Mm-hmm.
And she has 15 tails. Sounds to me like one of my favorite monsters, the Japanese kitsune.
The
or
kitsune.
The fox spirit.
But still, that reference is just minimal, and we can't trace it even further.
Yeah, I've never heard that before now, and I am really curious, and I really want to find out what it is. And we are going to do a fox spirit episode at some point, because if we don't, I might explode.
You might.
But maybe
so
by then.
We definitely have to do one of, but maybe somebody listening knows the link, if there is one, other than this singular reference that we found between Gryla and the kitsune. But I think it's very interesting coincidence, this cloven-hoofed giant with 15 tails, and those 15 tails were purposed to actually carry bags of children.
Each tail, I probably have the numbers wrong, but if I remember correctly, each tail carried 10 bags, I want to say, and each bag carried like 20 kids. So she had a whole
There was a lot of kids that she was carrying around.
I don't know how they still have a population.
Yeah, so there must have been a lot of really naughty children.
Yeah, so maybe that's why the stories are missing, because
maybe so.
nobody was around to record this.
Maybe so.
But yeah, she would go to town. As the stories progressed throughout the year, she would actually go to town and start arguing with parents about whether or not she could have their naughty children.
She was bargaining for the kids.
Yes.
And keep in mind that she was using these children to prepare her family's meal.
Now, here's a funny part of that story. She could only take the naughty kids. So any kid that she took home and that kid repented, she would have to release him.
That's probably why she's so mean, because she's eating a whole bunch of naughty, evil little kids.
You are what you eat.
Bitter, so she becomes a bitter woman. I don't know, maybe not. But big giantess, 15 tails, carrying around all these bags of kids. She's got a deadbeat husband. Somewhere along the way, though, she was slain.
Well, we'll get to that more later, but I think that was just a modern...
Scratch that, people. You did not hear me say that. We're not going to talk about it anymore tonight.
We'll get to that, but I want to talk about her children first, because they actually have an interesting piece in that segment.
Right,
as
and
well.
this is the children from the third husband.
Yes. Now she had...
So do we know that she has children from the first two?
She does, actually.
Okay.
But they're not as important.
No.
So we're not going to talk about it.
Sorry, children from the first and second husband. If you're listening to this, Michael says you're not as important.
She had,
Do not come to our house and bring your Yule Cat or anything for Michael saying that. He did not mean it. You are important. You are loved. We care about you.
Bring it on. I've seen rare exports I can handle.
Wow.
I'm going to go hide in the cellar now.
Yeah, I know. They're going to show up. You're going to go hide. I'm going to be standing at the door, dressed as a ninja pirate with my swashbuckling sword to fend off the Yule Cat and all of Gorilla's kids. Yes, our Cluricon would... Well, if he's not drunk...
Well, the drunker the better for the Irish.
Okay, here we go. Raise our fist and charge the field.
So her children are the Yule Lads.
The Yule Lads. People love the Yule Lads.
The Yules Venar.
The Yules Venar.
I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that.
And we have an article about them as well.
Yes.
I think it's in brief, the 13 Trolls of Christmas.
Yeah, these guys are fascinating. So they start showing up 13 days before Christmas. They spend a little time, and then the 13 days after Christmas, they start to leave. But one comes once a day, or not once a day, but a new one shows up each day.
One day leading up to...
And he brings a gift for the children. And he'll also, if the kid is naughty, then he won't bring a gift. He'll bring a rotten potato, kind of like Cole. But he will bring something for the kids. But then he'll stick around those 13 days and cause mischief. These are still trolls. They're still very... In our previous episode on trolls, we talked about how you don't want to become like a trollish person. And I believe these guys are still those examples. They act obnoxious sometimes, and you don't want to be like them.
And they are named for their activity quite a bit. So let's list the 13 trolls by name. The first one is the Sheepcoat Clod.
Mm-hmm. He bullies the sheep, kind of beats him up, and just acts like a goof in the barn.
The Gollygawk.
This is a guy who waits in the gutter to steal Christmas leftovers.
To steal.
And most of these guys, I should point out, they're here for the food.
They're thieves.
Yes.
They're hungry thieves. We have Stubby.
Yep. Named not for his activity, but for his height. But he still likes to doesn't wait for his opportunity to steal food.
And here's one I like, is the spoon licker.
That's an obvious one.
I mean, he's
kind of
just
gross.
He's just malnourished and wants to eat. Again, these guys are hungry thieves. Then
So
we have
always
this
wash
one
your
I do
spoon.
not like because I love candles, but we have the candle stealer.
Yes.
Sucker comes in my house stealing my candles, I'm gonna light his on fire. Then we have the pot scraper.
Yep.
Again, looking for
pretty
leftovers. Bowl licker. Then we have the door slammer, or
Now,
the
this guy's called the-
herdaskeller.
And sometimes he's also called the door sniffer. He's
And if you
more
guys,
like
if I didn't pronounce that right, don't slap me out there. I'm just saying what I see here.
he's more like a poltergeist. He slams the doors when nobody's around.
Runs
Kinda
around your
freaks people
house
out.
slamming doors. So if you got a bunch of slamming doors during this wonderful season of light and happiness and joy, you may have ticked somebody off, and you need to be aware.
Yeah,
You may have a poltergeist in your house.
or a troll lad.
Then we have the skyr gobbler.
Skyr is a type of yogurt
Yeah.
in Iceland, and he likes to gobble the
So
stuff.
he just likes to go eat the yogurt.
Probably by the carton.
Make sure your fridge is well stocked with yogurt this
You know,
Christmas.
I wonder if you purposefully left out sour Skyr to throw him off, would
He's-
that just make things worse? Like, would he
he's-
come back with worse?
He's gonna do some stuff.
Is he like the Tomte?
He's gonna be upset. You're not taking care of your trolls. All right, then we have the sausage swiper.
Yeah, likes whole links of sausages.
Yep, and never mind. I'm not going to go there. Just we have the sausage swiper,
Where
and
were
you
you
people
going?
need to be aware that you need to keep your bacon safe. Okay. Then we have
What
moving
else
on.
do you need?
Moving on, we have the meat hook.
This guy has.
The
So
meat
this
hook.
guy uses a hook to steal meat, but he is more sinister in appearance because of this. I don't think he's any more dangerous, but he's just got this big hook.
Yeah,
it's kind of creepy.
so it's scary, a troll walking around with a hook. And then we have the window peeper, this pervy little troll.
Yes,
He just likes to, he likes to peek in the windows.
I think that one's self-explanatory.
Yeah,
and he can
and-
stay away from my windows.
And some people might think he's just there to steal the food, but I think he's a perv. And
Well, he's a troll.
he's one of that Gryla's sons that needs to move on. Then we have the doorway sniffer, obviously somebody who lurks in the doorways. And there's about 70 different names for these guys.
Yeah, 70 different names, and these are variations, and then also other Yule Lads that are not considered the main 13. I'd like to point out a couple that we haven't talked about in our site before in the past,
Okay.
but I think one of my favorites of the more obscure Yule Lads is the Lung Splatter.
Oh, yeah, you told me about him. That's pretty
weird.
freaky.
I kind of like it, but he...
And lung splatter is not what it sounds like, because it's not like his lungs are...
Well, no, he's carrying his lungs outside of his body,
Yeah.
and he actually uses it as a cudgel to
It's not the first time we've seen lungs on the outside of the body in some of these.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not go there, though.
Okay.
Ah.
So the lung splatter, he carries his lungs on the outside of his body for what reason?
Well, he uses it as like a cudgel to beat naughty children.
So kids,
Brings a whole new meaning to a breath of fresh air.
so kids, be nice, because you don't want to be slapped upside the head with a bunch of lungs.
And then you have there's actually a Yule gal, I guess, or Yule lass, you could say. She is called Flotnos, or something like that, but it basically means fat nostril.
Okay.
What she does is she steals the fat from the food, and she stuffs it up her nose.
Yeah, I had a picture of her. If you tick her
Yeah.
off, she's gonna like
Oh,
blow
no,
her
no.
snot all
Oh.
over you.
Ah.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Michael does not like snot.
No,
He
I'm just
doesn't like
thinking
boogers.
Of her sneezing with the fat that she stuffed up her as well.
Sinuses. that
All
are
right,
mixed
moving
with
on.
the
Moving
fat.
on to the next one, you have the lampshade dude.
Right.
Now my mind is complete.
The lampshade dude.
This guy. Okay, so there are two brothers. There's the lamp darkener dude. I can't remember his full name. And then there's the rope loosener. And these two are obviously, one likes to spread darkness and fear, and the other one likes to mess with the knots that you have around your house. Which
Yeah.
back in that day and age,
Would-
I can imagine
there would be a lot
pretty
of
important.
knots.
Yeah.
Yeah, from animals to securing things and everything else. So,
But these are more obscure, and I think they've kind of gotten brushed to the wayside because they're not family friendly, if you will.
Yeah, and actually, the stories about the Yule Lads became at one time so incredibly brutal and bloody that the stories were banned.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at earlier with Gryla. These stories got too much for kids at one point. There was actually a law passed in let me look it up. I think it's 1876, I want to say.
Yeah, so a law passed in order to ban these stories.
Further back, it's 1746.
Okay, in the 1700s, a law was passed to ban these stories because they became so bloody.
It was specifically to ban parents from using these stories to scare children into obedience.
Right.
I have never heard of...
Which is probably not such a bad idea even today.
But
I don't think that's the greatest form of education.
The boogeyman stories around the world. I've never heard of anybody having to ban that or make a law out of it. So,
well, it must have been intense.
Well, again, the Yule Lads were not always gift bringers. Sometimes they were just trolls. So it's interesting to see how they've stuck around and changed in our culture.
I mean, ultimately, we've got the Yule Cat, we've got Gryla, a giantess, a troll, a very important and probably at one time majestic, but at least very important and terrifying troll.
I kind of want to rank her up there with Akkadian Baba Yaga and some of those other mysterious,
very important, but yet kind of lost on us in modern day. Not one of those popular stories you hear told all the time. Then we have her children, the Yule Lads, just bringing all kinds of mischief to the table. No pun intended.
Oh, okay.
I got you. See, really interesting conversation about some characters and traditions around the season of Yule and Christmas with these trolls. Where do we go from here? I think next week we're actually going to get right at the heart of it all.
The Klaus.
We're going to talk about Krampus and Santa.
And the more obscure origins that I don't think many people pay attention to sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And if you haven't seen our official movie review of the new movie Krampus, you can find that on our YouTube channel, The Monster Guys. We have a in-depth and riveting review of the movie.
We kept the spoilers to a mum.
We kept the spoilers out, but here's our recommendation from this podcast is that go see that movie. If you are into horror, I think, my opinion from a more classic stance, this movie presents a horrifying and very entertaining picture of the story of Krampus.
Yeah, it was a great flick.
Yeah. Really enjoyed it. So next week we'll actually dive into the stories of Santa and Krampus and get into some stuff that maybe some people do or don't know, but it'll be fun nonetheless.
Definitely.
So you can find us as always at themonsterguys.com. Please go there, check out our articles and the different things we've got there. You can also contact us through the website, rate us and review us on iTunes, subscribe there, please, please, please. You can find us most anywhere. You can download podcasts. And we're just having a good time, and we appreciate you listening. Our numbers are growing, so it's great to have you a part of our community. Woo-hoo. And we've got some really special stuff coming up. Really excited this week about the mail, the monster mailbag.
And I hope that keeps going.
Yeah, definitely. Write us your questions if you have questions about monsters from anywhere, or creatures, or legends, or folklore, anything like that, and we'll do our very best to answer. And if we don't have the answers, we'll go find somebody that does, which is another point, in fact, that coming up in just a couple episodes, we'll have our very first guest. We've got lined up in the months to come some really cool visitors for the podcast, some guests that have some expertise in various monsters and cultures, and we're excited to be offering that.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to sharing knowledge and information on some of our favorite legends and folklore.
In the meantime, listen, folks, be nice, be safe out there, bundle up, find some way to overcome all the ugly that the commercialization of this season has brought, and just do something good for somebody. If nothing else, just enjoy your time with your family and friends. We love you, and looking forward to hanging out with you again next week.
See you next time.
Good night.